Hey, it's me, Hobbyist Fishing, but you can call me Xander. And today you're going to learn how to buy a fishing rod. Maybe we won't do a YouTube video today. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Amazon. Yes, thank you, Amazon. I know. Just leave it at the door, I'll go get it. And today you're going to learn what fishing rod you need for your style of fishing, not what the rod company tells you that rod is good for. And yeah, I know if you've been on my TikTok or my Instagram, I've been promising that I'll be doing some more on-the-water fishing stuff, but today in Massachusetts, it snowed.
We begin with the next weather alert for some wintry April showers. It was a snowy start to the weekend today with some...
And I'm not allowed to play with my toys today until we get our errands done, so you're coming with me. So do you think we can go to the PP store?
Yes.
Ah, amazing. Yes. And we got the errands done, and I was a good boy, so I got to pick out a few toys from Dick's. It was a pretty small haul from Dick's today. I'm pretty stocked up for the season this year, but I did grab a few smaller things. I want to do a small finesse, like pressure pond fishing video for y'all. So in preparation to that, and that the weather gets better tomorrow, I got some of these small 2-size Gamakatsu EWGs, and which will pair really nicely with my little 3-inch Senkos that I love a lot. These are Green Pumpkin Magic, which is a great color. And then I also grabbed a pack of some Yamamoto Zakos. If you haven't seen these before, these are like, people don't talk about this bait enough, but these are killer, like swim, like not really swim baits. They don't paddle that well. You could fish them like a swim bait, I guess, but they're killer like chatterbait trailers and spinnerbait trailers. And then I also picked up a pack of the Guggen Trench Hogs in the Bama Bug color. I kind of like the Trench Hogs. I think they would be really good on a free rig, but I got the junior size because this is like a great little size for fishing on the back of like a 3/0 EWG on a free rig. But let's talk about rods. Thanks for tagging along on all my chores today and my little haul that I did. And let's get back to what we were talking about earlier, right? So let's talk about rods and finding a rod for you and your style of fishing, right? And I think the best way to kick this kind of conversation off before I start yapping about rod powers and carbon and glass and all of this, I want to show you my rod. My rod that I do 80% of my fishing with. And the other 20% is like one other rod and then my spinning rod, right? So let's go to this. This is my Megabass Destroyer FMJ on a Steez ATW with a spool that I took out of a Zillion with 14-pound fluorocarbon line. This is a 7'3", medium heavy action rod, and it's a fast taper, right? And I'll get into what that means later. But with this rod, I fish everything. I fish weightless soft plastics, I fish jigs, I fish free rigs, I fish crankbaits, I fish spinner baits, I fish everything on this rod. And the reason for that is that it's something that I found that kind of matches my style of fishing, right? I want something that's versatile, that I can do a lot with, and has a wide range. And how do we get there, right? And also, I lean more towards bottom contact fishing, so jigs, free rigs, Texas rigs. This rod is designed by Megabass specifically for jigs. It can do a lot of other stuff, as I was just talking about, but this is my rod that I junk fish on, essentially. How do we get there, right? So remember all those little details. We'll come back to them in a little bit. But let's just go back to basics. Let's just go to rods, right? So with rod power is like kind of the first thing you think of when you think of, oh, I need a new rod, right? So there's ultralight, light, medium, medium heavy, heavy, and then extra heavy, and then like extra heavy in some cases. So what does power mean, right? And we think, when you hear the word power, you think of like, boom, power, and like the power of a rod, how strong it is to pull out a big fish. And that's not necessarily the case. When we're talking about power of a rod, it's actually the strength of the rod in casting a specific amount of weight, right? So if you look at different rods, when you're looking at rods that you're buying, you're going to see an ultralight rod will cast a 1/32 ounce to a 1/8 ounce jig weight on a X amount of line, right? And let's like take my rod for example. This is a medium heavy rod, that will throw a 3/8 ounce to a 1 ounce weight bait, right? And so what that means is that from 3/8 to 1 ounce, when I'm casting the thing, the weight of that lure, if it falls into that range of 3 to 1 ounce, it will have the optimal amount of weight to bend that rod and load it, and then you can cast it well, right? So that doesn't mean that if I go to a 1/4 ounce bait, I'm not going to be able to cast it, or it's not going to be strong enough, or it's going to not work. It will work. You just have to adjust how you fish it, right? And then before I get into the taper, like extra fast, medium fast, right? Then once we're talking about power and casting, then actually that's when your reel comes into play, right? So the Steez ATW is a reel that comes with a specific kind of spool that's designed for heavier baits and casting further. I take that spool out and I put a spool that is lighter from a Zillion that's designed for casting lighter lures, so that in the scenario that I want to fish a lighter bait, like a 1/4 ounce, like a free rig or a weightless soft plastic, I am able to do so by changing out that spool so that my spool will allow for lighter cast. And then I just need to adjust my casting technique so that I pull out a little bit more line and then I cast it so I can make up for that weight in that power range of my rod, right? And that's how we kind of start falling into like, oh, this is the rod that I use for everything. And then let's get into tapers, right? So there's extra fast, moderate fast. It's not the speed of the rod. It's not how fast you're reeling. It's not how fast it casts. It's actually how fast, this term fast when we're talking about taper is actually how fast when you bend the tip of your rod, how fast does it start bending in here, right? So if it's an extra fast, it's gonna start bending like between the second and third eye. So only bend to there. If it's a fast action, it'll start bending from maybe like this third one, right? So it'll start bending here. So this is a fast action rod. So if you can see, it starts bending, right at that like fourth one. It really gets that bend going. It starts bending there. And then if it's like a moderate fast, your rod will bend a lot deeper into here. If it's a moderate action, like a cranking rod made out of fiberglass, it's gonna bend all the way into there, right? And that's what taper means. And quite honestly, when it comes to taper, a lot of people will say, ooh, I almost lost my rod. A lot of people will say, you need an extra fast taper because extra fast gives you the most sensitivity. That's not the case. Extra fast is good for if you fish a lot of exposed hooks. Let's say you're in an area where you don't get a lot of vegetation. So you fish like swim jigs that have an exposed hook. You can, when a fish bites on that, because of the bend of that rod is quick, it'll snap back faster and put that hook into the bass's mouth faster. So people think of it as sensitivity, but it's actually more about how quickly your rod can react to a bite and then push that and then move that hook. But it does come with a drawback on extra fast, is that it's not great for treble hooks. And the reason for that it's not necessarily 100% true. That's like if you fish a treble hook bait on or like a spinner bait or a tratter bait on a extra fast tip rod, you're not going to catch fish. It just means you have a higher likelihood of when you set the hook, because that rod tip bends back so quickly, it's going to pull that bait out of the bass's mouth, right? So extra fast is great. It's great if you're fishing exposed hooks. I have to fish a bit more, in Massachusetts at least, I fish all around a lot of vegetation. So I actually go to a fast action rod. So what that means is it's gonna bend a bit more. It has a bit more give. And especially for my style of fishing with jigs and free rigs and, Texas rigs, when I set the hook on a fish and that fish is shaking its head, all that weight from the Texas rig sinker or like the jig is in that bass's mouth, I actually want a rod that's gonna bend a bit more so that when the bass pulls its face this way, the rod goes with it. And then so that it's not snapping that bait back and forth. And then that's how you lose hooks on the head shakes. So I like a fast action rod. And then that starts to give me a bit more flexibility into fishing all these different techniques. It's a nice middle ground. So if you're fishing exposed hooks, if you like quick action, if you're maybe, let's say like your reaction speed isn't the greatest when you're fishing, like it takes you a second to like, oh shoot, I have a fish, and then set the hook, go to an extra fast, because the extra fast will make up for that. But if you are fishing like heavier baits, or if you're constantly, you're locked in all the time, ready to just set the hook, then you go to a moderate fast action, or if you're cranking a lot, if you fish a lot of crankbaits, then you want a moderate fast action. But if you want that middle ground, I really like a medium heavy rod with a fast action taper. The medium heavy is really great, like that 3/8 ounce to 1 ounce is really right where I fish. The heaviest I generally fish a bait is going to be a 1/2 ounce, unless I'm going to a glide bait, but that's a different story. And then my free rigs and I usually fish free rigs or spinner baits or like underspins that are within that 1/4 to 3/8 ounce range. And that's right where I want to be. So this rod fits my style. So kind of think about that. Next time you buy a rod, right, is, all right, here are the baits that I like to throw. This is what I catch them a lot on. Or this is the kind of fisherman I want to be. What kind of baits are those? Are those heavy jigs? Are those light jigs? Are those heavy Texas rigs? Are those light weightless baits? I mean, so think about it that way, and then you think about taper. Generally, like I said, a good catch-all is the fast action, is a great middle ground, and then length, the length of the rod, right? Now, what length does is that it becomes a trade-off between when you cast your bait out. If you have a long rod, you have to think of it as like physics, right? It's easier to lift something heavier with a long lever arm, because you get that joint, that physics, okay? Physics. But a longer rod will help you cast further. So if you need to be always casting further, if the fish that around where you live in the middle of the pond or the middle of the lake, and you need that distance, then you need a longer one. But if you're a bank angler like me, and you do a lot of bank angling, you actually don't want a rod that's too long, because when you're fishing from the bank, there's usually a tree above you, a tree behind you, a tree to your side, or you're sitting in a tree. And then in that case, do you really want an 8-foot long rod? No. And usually, especially from bank angling, at least for myself, I'm casting at cover that's like right at my feet. So I don't need the longest rod in the world. I need a rod that it's comfortable for me to move, to be agile with, to cast with when I have trees around me, but also a shorter rod gives you a lot more accuracy when you're pitch casting, when you're underhand casting. It gives you a lot more accuracy. You're much more able to control the tip of the tip of your rod, right? So like if you hold a rod, right? If you're gonna go buy a rod, you hold it. How easy is it for you to draw a star right where you want it, right? With the tip. How easy is that? When I move that, I know exactly, when I move my hand, I know exactly when I'm looking at that rod tip, how far it's going. And that's how you get the accuracy from a shorter rod, because it's easier on a shorter rod than a super long rod that you have to really think about where that tip is going. So then, now we take this all together. How the power is the weight of the bait that you want to fish. Then the taper is your reaction speed. So fast is like right in the middle, and I like fast. And then the length. Are you casting far, or do you need to make accurate cast, or Are you fishing like little streams where there's a million trees around you, and you may not necessarily need that length, but you need the ability to make casts in a small space. And then that's kind of the big three parameters of your rod and what you choose, right? And it's the same thing for spinning rods, right? For me, because I dial in my rods for my style of fishing, my spinning rod is almost specifically for just finesse applications, things that are so light that I really shouldn't be casting it on a bait caster because I'll backlash. And what I will say is, when it comes to the price or what you're spending in your budget for a rod and reel, in my personal experience, spend more money on your rod than your reel. What you'll notice is that as you go up in price, it's like $100 to $200 to $300 to $500, you'll notice is that actually that weight range that they give you on that rod actually starts to increase. You're going to start seeing more, like there's like $600 rods that can fish a 1/4 ounce weight up to an ounce. So you start to get more of that flexibility. So that's why you want to spend the money on the rod rather than the reel, because with that one rod, you can fish a lot more. With that one reel, you can do pretty much the same thing on any rod. So when you're looking at it, spend the money on the rod, and especially because we're looking at finding a rod that fits your style. Once you find your style, stick with it. Everything else can go away. So yeah, that's my spiel on like rods and reels and how do you find a rod for your style. And I want to know, what's your rod style? What's your fishing style? If you have questions about, if you're just getting started, I know I just spewed a bunch of information. If you just skip to the end and you're watching right now, the least you can do is give me a little bit of engagement. So if you have a question about like, hey, leave it in the comments what you fish, and ask me what rod you'd recommend, or like what power. I'll put the power and the action and the length even, I think, in that comment as a reply. I love to hear like what you guys are fishing and what your technique is, or what you want to do, right? What are your thoughts? Let me know. Welcome to the Hobbies Fishing YouTube channel. I know TikTok and Instagram, y'all have been waiting for so long. Thank you for waiting. It's finally here. And if this weather outside gets a little better, I really hope I'm gonna get some on the water fishing with my rods and be able to show you guys some actual stuff. But thank you guys. Thank you all of you that have come from TikTok and Instagram for all the support you show me there to push me to do this. And if you're just joining me from YouTube, follow my TikTok and my Instagram. It's all hobbies_fishing. Thank you for finding me here. I'm glad to have you. We're a great group of fishermen here, just trying to catch dinks. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you so much. It's been fun. We're going to do a lot more of these. I'm so excited to see where this YouTube channel is going to go, because in my 3-minute TikTok and Instagrams, I want to yap so much, but I'm trying to keep it to 3 minutes just to keep everyone's attention. But on YouTube, I'm going to do whatever I want. 20-minute videos, 5-minute videos, we're just going to do it all. So thank you again, guys. Thanks for sitting through here. Please leave any questions about rods and fishing techniques and how to find a rod that's for you. And I really love to help you guys find that rod that suits your fishing style. So what are you waiting for? Get out there.